Guns. Beside the bald eagle and Jesus for some reason, the biggest symbol of American pride. Let's be honest though, we all gotta love ourselves some sweet, sweet looking guns.
But that's the ugliest blunderbuss I have ever seen.
In Bloodborne, guns are left-hand weapons that deal piss-poor damage, but offer arguably the best parries in the series. But what would happen if someone like me, aka someone who sucks even after a few hundreds of hours spent in this game, tries to beat it while using only the guns and nothing else? Chaos! A lot of blood, sweat, tears, and cussing. Suffering for your entertainment. I am Akuma, this is RNG, and Bloodborne Gun Only Challenge. Quick gloss over the rules. I am allowed to use only weapons that are locked to your left hand. The only exception is the torch, since it doesn't go pew, but it goes... There is also an exception to the right-hand weapons. Well, two of them actually, as both Rifle Spear and Reiter Palash allow you to shoot as part of their moveset. Only that would be allowed, no melee hits obviously. I was also thinking really hard if I would allow myself to use Simon's Bowblade, as it is a ranged weapon that scales with Blood Tinge, like all the guns, uses Quicksilver bullets as ammo, and if I remember correctly, which I might not, you can also parry with the shots. In the end, I decided not to. As much as I love the Bowblade, I think it's still too different from conventional guns. Then, of course, no hacking. Being a well-mannered Christian woman, I don't even have an idea how I would do that. But I am allowed to use glitches and exploits. This is a very important thing to mention, because the first thing I do after creating my beautiful character, who definitely looks like someone I would entrust with a gun, is sequence breaking the game via the wolf skip. This skip revolves around luring this werewolf outside and baiting his grab attack as I am standing with my face stuffed between the bars of the gate. Mashing buttons help you out of the grab and clip through the gate. Accessing it early. That's the entire point of the skip. I died the first few times around, but it's not as hard as some of the other glitches. When I died, I also picked up my hunter's pistol, very enthusiastically, because this guy is obviously more dangerous with it than I am. I also picked the hunter's axe, as out of the 3 melee options, you get the most echoes for selling it. About the werewolf skip, you might wonder why I did that. Cainhurst summons. Mostly that, but Forbidden Woods and Cainhurst also wield some useful upgrade materials too, which might be good to have unlocked early. Also, I was able to greet the real Yosefka and smell the feet of the imposter Yosefka. Yeah, really not as good as the real thing. Dělaj si píču, vole, teď jsem začala nahrávat a ona si řekne, že musí něco dělat. Tak si počkáme, budeš to holt muset vystřihnout. For a long while, I spent my time mostly running around Yarnam, collecting items and unlocking paths. For the most part, I avoided combat, not to waste my very limited resources. And the main deal at this point was to run through the sewer and unlock shortcut to Gascoigne, accessing the early Echoes farm on the bridge. Considering I managed to get a music box, I rushed by and ran straight to Gascoigne, with the idea that I might trigger his phase 2 early with the music box, and make him jump out of bounds and save on some bullets. Well, let's say that Gascoigne was not very cooperative, and at some point I just had to dip. I used a lot of heals, and I really needed not to waste so much, so I decided to get some more resources elsewhere before I'd attempt to kill him the legit way. I decided to go down the ladder to Forbidden Woods and backtrack back to the lamp, picking any item I found on the ground, despite my gradually developing germophobia, but this time I dealt with the enemies also. The best way to deal damage is still to parry, as enemies ready for riposte take critical damage even without the visceral. It saved me some bullets for sure, and the echo drops are significantly higher than in Central Yarnam. I was able to get a few more levels and some vials before I returned to the Central Yarnam to farm the wheelchair guy for bullets only. I was easily able to get 4 bullets without wasting a single resource, thanks to the blood bullets. The enemies were parryable, and I could easily get 10 blood bullets without needing to heal, so stonks. When it came to spending my echoes, I mostly bought vials instead of more bullets. One bullet costs 160 echoes at this point, and a vial costs 180. But sacrificing HP I can heal with that vial gives me 5 blood bullets, which seems way more beneficial in the grand scheme of things. That is also why I might go for the Communion runes instead of the Formas Oedon, but as the run goes on, I end up using both of these anyways. Time to try Gascoigne again. It was tedious and took around 10 minutes of running in circles before I would manage, but eventually, with Blessing of Oedon or whatever, and like 15 minutes of running around, he finally did the jump and landed outside of his boss room, descending to the grate out of bounds. Finally, we gained access to the Cathedral Ward and multiple paths it branches into. Once again, I pickpocket every corpse I find and head to the Old Yarnam. It seems to be the tradition in my runs. I'm like a moth drawn to that burning city's flame. After looting and unlocking shortcuts, I decide to pay Susie a visit, hoping it might be easier with the 6 bone marrow ashes I got from Jira's friend. It actually did go pretty well, until the poison came. And this shit happened again. And again. And again. And quite frankly, with a limited amount of not only antidotes but bullets and heals, I just decided to ignore her like I do all of my life problems. I wanted to kill her first because of many reasons. Getting to the old workshop, and Yargul, being able to skip buying the fucking emblem to get to the cathedral. But I quite frankly hate this boss. She is fine on normal runs, like normal, but on every challenge run she is just fucking horrible. And somehow we like agreed on this with my friend, but we are worse at this boss with every consecutive run. It's crazy how this works. Well, the more I thought of it, I was just trying to skip way too much stuff just for access to a better gun. I was way too focused on that, even though it was like throwing branches under my own feet. And it was the branches the size of those spiked trunk traps in Forbidden Woods, which was totally unnecessary. I left the Old Yarnam and made the decision to kill the Cleric Beast for the Sword Hunter badge first. Then I farmed some echoes for the emblem to access the Cathedral Ward, unlocked all the other gates, helped Eileen because she thought that bringing fucking knives to a gunfight is smart idea, poor little thing, clear out Henvik, and proceed to have the most pathetic run on the witches because my dumbass got grabbed like 8 fucking times. I would like to say that this was just a brain fart moment, but if replaying this game is like riding a bike, then I am a person who deadass needs a support wheels on a chair. On the second try, I made sure to get the first witch halfway down and then focus on the second one. That starts wondering about when the first one is on half the HP. It takes knowing which is which and focusing on the second one whose HP doesn't show. They are both extremely passive until the first one is dead, so both of them do barely anything. So it would be a joke to die this time around. Thank goodness I definitely didn't die. No, really. Witches are easy. One death was already embarrassing enough. I did get grabbed in the end of the fight just to add insult to injury, I guess. With them out of the picture, I got my Rune Workshop tool, and I could finally access probably the most useful area at this point, which is Castle Painhurst. Not only do we finally get some first chunks, but we can also pick the best weapon for this run, which I am pretty sure you all knew about, the Evelyn. There are essentially 2 god tier weapons for gun only. Evelyn is one of them, having the best blood tinge scaling, especially if you have blood tinge level above 20, and the highest damage per bullet. Second gun is the repeating pistol, which is essentially a poor man's Evelyn, as it has lower stat requirements, still pretty good scaling, and the highest damage per shot. Now, while it does outdamage the Evelyn, it consumes 2 Quicksilver bullets per shot, hence why I said Evelyn does more damage per singular bullet. And according to some Reddit posts that I found, the numbers aren't high enough to excuse the bullet cost. We are going to stick to this beautiful flintlock pistol, yeah? Luckily, I had some spare shards and twins to upgrade it all the way to +7. No better target to test this baby girl on than Viper Amelia. And quite honestly, her fight was so much fun. Evelyn was dealing pretty good damage. I even managed to stagger her and get few limb breaks, which was cool to see with a gun. Amelia's moveset mostly focuses in front of her, so shooting her back or side when she was locked in a combo gave me plenty of opportunities to hit her. Plus, she has only one long-range AoE and the leap to close the distance, but other than that, it was also possible to stay out of the reach before she jumped. Easy first try. With my newfound vigor and
insatiable hunger for revenge,
I finally returned to Miss Skinflaps. I was seriously considering summoning Alfred for the fight just to be over with it, but his summon disappears after touching the skull, so I am once again shown that my dumbass actions have consequences. And it's Daniel Flynn's character once again, lucky me. In the end, I didn't need his help. Although I was a bit sad not to see my beloved executioner husband. Somehow, the fight finally clicked for me, and even though you think that it was practice on all of the previous attempts, nah, not really. That was still just pure fucking spite and nothing else. This attempt was literally my equivalent of a hate fuck. Also, that is also a banger song. With Bloodstarved Beast dead, I was finally granted access to the workshop where I picked the Radiant Sword Hunter badge to unlock Bone Marrow Ashes in the Messenger shop, but also the first piece of the umbilical cord. But that is a snack for later. I also went through the lower parts of the tower, and I so wish you could hear me during the next clip, because I was literally like, huh, there should be a Snatcher somewhere around here, shouldn't he? Like, now I'm thinking about it, I see the panic in my rolls. That was literally so fucking funny. I wish I had sound for that. Speaking of Snatchers, that is our entry ticket to the Horny Jail. So I obviously find the closest one and prove my guilt of the Horny by letting the warden choke me out. Joke's on him, I am into that shit.
disgusting!
There was nothing really useful for me in Yahar'gul. Some Manman's knowledge or bold papers, which I cannot use. This is probably the biggest downside of the challenge. My only damage increase comes from the Bone Marrow Ashes and I can only carry 10 of those. No fire or bold paper, no beast blood pellets, as those only work with physical damage, and as I said before, no throwables, so no mollies or poison knives. And we all know where we use the poison knives. Despite not much use for Yahar'gul items-wise, there is an optional boss for me to kill. Because I already condemned myself to all bosses runs with my SL1, so let's do that. Parl is a bit messy ass boss. His legs can be hard to hit, the camera is very ass, as with every huge boss, and you can see shit. I seriously didn't expect this fight to be easy, but the gun allowed me to keep my distance, not having to deal with the camera and actually hit his head. I died once because I got caught by his lighting, but he fell on a second try, which is still a win in my book. Since we have all extras done at this point, it is time to visit Forbidden Woods. You know they are forbidden because there are a lot of people, obviously. I already picked all the goodies I needed early, so I essentially just got to the shortcut and went for the boss. While the number of enemies and their ability to dodge looks intimidating, the Nazgul squad has one disadvantage. They can be parried. I used that fact a few times, even though I can't parry even if my life depends on it, but you know, they are still pretty squishy and fall pretty easily on the first try. Which is funny considering I fucking hate multiple enemy fights and I am not good at them. Shadows are still pretty good and easy to learn. Next one up is Rom, and for her I got heavily inspired by a game called Kill It With Fire. What I have not mentioned yet is that I was upgrading my flame sprayer on the side specifically for her, as she is weak to fire. committing a mild case of arson that made Rom into more of a joke than she already was, I could book another trip to Yahar Ghul. This time of year, the streets are fairly generous with more chunks from all the death snatchers, so I at least had good enough reason to explore the area well before joining the big event. A moon birthing out something that sounds like a Combichrist vocalist in the DMC reboot soundtrack. It was a bit of a messy fight, but it wasn't that bad. Considering that one Reborn is still technically a toddler that didn't get past this crawling stage yet. He is slow and big target, which made this still pretty easy first try. Skipping all the unnecessary bullshit of Mergo's Sloth, we finally get to Mikolash, who was expecting me for a round of Dead by Daylight, it seems, because he was running like he was the last serf looking for a hatch with Legion on his ass. Unfortunately for him, I felt like maining Deathslinger this run, so he gets shot between the eyes with no way to counter it. Just the way I like it. No Call Beyond, no Augur, no bullshit, peak Mikolash experience. It would be better if this didn't take just something short of fucking forever, because I forgot to restock on Bone Marrow Ashes, but hey, I didn't plan on doing this shit again. Another first try. I leave. It was at this point that I wanted to tie some loose ends, definitely not forgetting that the Wet Nurse is also a boss in this game, so I headed off to clear some of the optional bosses I had left and finish some quests. Mind you, most of these are not necessary, I did them just for the funsies, because I don't really need the special runes or finishing the quests. First one on my hit list was Bloody Crow of Canehurst, who I shamelessly cheesed on the staircase because God forbid I actually fight this powerhouse fair and square. Nah. I then speak to Eileen, who grants me a useless badge, but also Hunter Rune for better stamina recovery. She then joins Gascoigne and Henrik in the Great Out of Bounds. Second was Martyr Logarius, who I was dreading more than any other fight, maybe except for the DLC ones. I have a hard time with him even on a casual run. Sure, that's on me, major skill issue, yeah, but the real issue came with Phase 2, where his aura becomes so powerful that it literally deflects bullets. I'm not joking. There is a shield around him that protects him from bullets, but also throwables like Molotovs too. You could catch him here and there, mid-attack or when you manage to get a parry. But then, if you wanted to hit him after the parry, the bullets would fly off as well. I didn't expect to fight a boss so menacing that even my ammo would try to avoid him, but here we are. This was a tough fight. Probably the hardest by far, but eventually I got him. I mean, it was still a first try, but it was a close call. Martyr Logarius still stands as one of the hardest bosses in Bloodborne for me. With him dead, I pay a visit to the Queen like a proper Englishman. Not that I would really care about her, I more intended to rob her, also like a proper Englishman, for an invitation to her party, which then I give to Alfred so I can progress his questline, and also just because I like to see him happy. Wholesome lad, isn't he? The only thing left is to pick up the Radiance rune that he leaves behind, and that concludes his questline. Such a shame. What a grossly incandescent being he was.
All mangled and twisted, with every inside on the outside for all the world to see.
More radiant than his rune. As a proper morning rite, I obviously go on a killing spree, starting with a defenseless woman who then I rob off of her umbilical cord to snack on later. That sounds extremely psychotic, or like something you would find as a lyrics in a Gore song, and I like that. Despite my hate towards this boss, I decided to get Amygdala off my list next, and it was one of the most hilarious fights I had against her ever. I was able to hit her head easily, aka her weak point, and 600 damage with Bone Marrow Ash is nothing to scoff at either. The 1200 damage at critical and another 12 on the counter was laughably diabolical.
Have mercy on the poor bastard.
Amygdala was not so great one in this run. And before you ask, no, I didn't clear the area. I used the elevator skip. Sue me, I ain't getting paid to go through this swamp of shit. The last optional area left was the Upper Cathedral Ward, so that's where I headed next. It can be pretty nasty area because of all the brainsuckers roaming the orphanage halls, but they are weak to blood damage, which makes it easy to 2-tap them with one of the bullets being buffed with Bone Marrow Ash. I get the key, grab the emote and the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge, even though I don't need it, and head for the first boss, which is Celestial Emissary. Easy boss by default. Just lock on, search for the only goober that doesn't have an individual health bar and focus on him. With Bone Marrow Ash applied, I downed the boss using only 4 bullets. 4! This is getting ridiculous at this point. Fine. Ebrietas usually makes up for the disappointment of the Emissary boss fight, right? But just like with Amygdala, using a gun allowed me to hit her head for some extra damage and even a stagger. I know she tried her best, but... well, Jack, say it for me.
Sometimes your best try is garbage and you should give up.
Can we put up a sign on the raft saying that? Put it next to the bed so you wake up and see that in the morning.
We should request the Coar to put it as a sign in her boss room too, because the vandalism I did by breaking the window put me in way more danger than Abby herself. Well, after seeing that the great ones are not really that great, I needed some challenge, you know? And I know exactly where to get it. The Old Hunters DLC, and its best gatekeeper by occupation, Ludwig. Ludwig the Accursed. One of the most aggressive bosses in the game, a professional gatekeeper of the DLC, an absolute unit that hits like a collective herd, and a perfect start to a perfect DLC. In the first phase, he is especially relentless, but after spending quite some time on him on my New Game Plus 3 character, I knew his moves quite well. He took me only like 4 tries here, which was pretty good in my opinion. After second Elden Ring Platinum, this felt so satisfying to have boss this readable. Well, it was after this that I remembered that Wet Nurse exists and headed straight for her. She is an easy boss without any restrictions as it is, but dealing with her from a distance shows that she really has no idea what to do. The only thing she could do is the fancy spin. Avoid that, unlike me, do the sidestep to cancel her darkness, shoot, profit. Easy. Now we are officially done with the base game, with the exceptions of the final bosses. DLC time. It was actually tough to get through the research hall sometimes, because there was so many enemies. I am not gonna lie, I did fart in the dirt once or twice here. The damage with Evelyn is still pretty damn good, and the resource management was not too hard. It was really because of the crowds and how fast the bobbleheads here can be. But it was nice to get the pass from the whole huntress who was doing her pacifist run, it seems. She was really nice this time. Nonetheless, we turn the staircase and head to the boss fight that's essentially the embodiment of Discord mod chat room. And before you start complaining that I shouldn't be insulting them like this or whatever, I moderate on 3 Discord servers. I know what I'm talking about, dude. When it comes to living failures, I could have done better by focusing on the parries and counters, but as I said before, multiple enemy fights give me more trouble than I would like to admit, so I just shot normally, not really caring if I get a parry or not. Their moveset is pretty easy and easily dodgeable, so main focus was to chip away on their bloated HP. I know I have been talking a lot about how easy the bosses are on this run. Like, yeah. Most of the time you don't need to engage as much as you would need with a melee build. I had much harder time with Mercy Blades on standard playthrough than I had with a gun. The deal with this run is that you need to dodge well, and that's mostly it. Yeah, you have limited options and limited resources, but that's why I say you need to dodge well. Every hit means 1 or 2 last flasks to heal blood bullet draws. So if you get hit a lot, all those 20 to 30 bullets you can carry might be the most you get for the boss. But if you dodge well and maneuver around the boss, you might have well over 100 just from the blood draws. The next boss, none other than Lady Maria, actively goes against whatever the fuck I just said. And oh boy, did she make me eat my words. With most enemies, you can stay at safe distance, but Maria's moveset relies a lot on its range, getting longer and longer with each phase. She is fast, hits hard, and loves to dodge any bullets with her quickstep. The strategy that would work really damn well was parrying her or shooting post-dodge before she got out of her animation. I am saying would because, god fucking almighty, do I not know how to parry or dodge her well. That obviously meant that a lot of my vials was spent on healing instead of getting the blood bullets. Also, Maria too has a gun, which is nice. After a few attempts, I did ditch and went to farm some blood echoes, hoping that increasing my damage might help. Also, I did attempt Lawrence at some point, but that went just as similarly well. Oh. Back to Lady Maria we go. The only thing I could do at this point was to lock in, learn the timings, and just get good. Which fairly wasn't as hard as I make it out to be by any means. Her parries are very, very generous. The thing is that I fought her much less than someone like Ludwig, so I just like the skill in her fight altogether. I found a lot of peace in my friend who was in the voice chat with me, who was fighting his own demons at the time.
Kamo, čo to je ten zasraný apostol, jak začne z ruky si spraví zasraný vrtulník, ten kokot pojebaný, co to kurva je?
Misery loves company, doesn't she? Ironically, this was my successful attempt, and honestly, even though it was difficult, intense fight, this was really, really fucking fun. Lady Maria on gun only is really tough, but goddamn it did I enjoy it.
Tak, gun only Lady Maria.
Nice.
Oh, ty vole. Tohle bylo fun.
Killing Maria grants us entry into the fishing hamlet, and therefore also the Orphan of Cause. This was a boss I also assumed to be an issue. I mean, it's Orphan of Cause. Does it surprise anyone that he has little to no problem fucking me over? While I do find this baby throwing his first little temper tantrum fairly cute, it made the resource management much harder. The strategy is not getting hit. But this is the orphan that we are talking about. Like, at some point I did have to just give up because I had no bullets or vials. I cannot find the footage, but I recall that it happened. Source, trust me bro. Getting it here costs a lot. But once you get into groove, you're all good. Sticking to the water helps a lot with the space and with visibility when the lightning strikes. Plus, I didn't really focus on parries this fight because I'm just not really confident in timing them, so I much rather just dodged instead of getting hit in attempt for parry. I think he was down on maybe the 6th try, which isn't that bad. It's another boss that I like a lot, so I enjoyed it nonetheless. The last boss of the DLC is Lawrence. And honestly, at this point, I just have no idea what to say anymore. I just shot him until he died. 4th try or something. It took a while because he can hit hard, but the range advantage still reigns supreme. There isn't much to be said about the gun only. Like I said before, it's heavy on defense and proper dodging makes the most of the fights, so I don't have much to comment on. With Lawrence down, we are done with the DLC, and all that is left are only the 2 final bosses. Obviously this is all bosses run, so I consume the umbilical cord and tell Gourmet to fuck off, triggering the boss fight. Honestly, I assume that he is going to be really jumpy just like Maria, being her teacher and all that, but he just power walked straight into the gunshot. Clearly way too done with Moon Presence's bullshit, he completely ignores the art of quickening he is known for and gets himself killed with no issue. As expected, it pisses off the Moon Presence and we go 1v1. Unfortunately for her, even absence of a melee weapon can't make her a decent or dangerous boss, so few bullets is all it takes for her to go down. And as such, the last boss of the game is done. While it might have been a bit tricky at the start, the challenge got progressively easier, but not necessarily boring. I know I said I don't have much to comment on, but again, commenting on something isn't the same as experiencing it. I know it hasn't been the most difficult challenge run, but I'm quite happy about that. It was still good fun without it turning too frustrating. Plus, it doesn't mean that I can do anything more difficult in the future, right? Speaking of the future though, I have no idea what I'm going to do next, and how soon that is gonna be anyways. That being said, I would love to hear your recommendations and ideas about what you would want to see. I am trying to clear out some of my backlog currently, but I will try to think of something meanwhile. Also, big apologies for the lack of activity from our side. We have been busy.
Já jsem ho fakt sejmula lopatou, vole. Zvednout by si chtěl, jo? Zvednout by si chtěl. Au. Ok, to byla instantní karma.
Ty vole.
Čo chcem si... Ako... asi nie.
Yeah, busy. Well, this is going to be all from me for today. I sincerely hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to like and maybe subscribe so you don't miss our future uploads. We will also be happy for any comment, not only for the algorithm, but for the tips and feedback. I was Akuma, and this was a relatively normal game show.